Welcome back to Access Anime. I'm Henshin Ikeda, and today I'll be doing a review and walkthrough of Ixion Saga Dimension Transfer Episode 3. Now, if you remember from last episode, Dukakis is defeated a second time by Kon, and it looks like his second balls are gone. They've been kicked in again. Now, we also find out that Alma Flora, at the end of last episode, was sending it looked like a flying squirrel to Kon, but again, we don't know the name of this flying squirrel and why Alma Flora, which is the sorceress, is sending Kon a flying squirrel to begin with. Just that she's sending a flying squirrel for God knows what reasons to them. But again, that was last episode, and on to this episode. But again, I'll keep my comment and my rating at the end of this clip, so stay tuned. But let's dive right in. Now, of course, we open this episode up by seeing Alma Flora sending this flying squirrel to Kon, and that was like a brief 10 seconds, 15 seconds in the first episode we see. We go past the opening theme and we see Dukakis in the hospital yet again. And you hear the doctor say those words that no man ever wants to hear. Both had been removed. Completely. So now we see one last ball, gold ball right above Dukakis' head, shattering for the last time. Now he has no balls in general. I really feel bad for this villain. I mean, he looks great as a villain. I mean, he has the, I don't know, he's got like everything going for him, and then he's been defeated twice by a kid he doesn't even know, and now he has no balls. This is an interesting way to start off a series, I'll just say that. Now, we see Dukakis, well, not really Dukakis, but Dukakis' officers. They're talking around and they're feeling bad about everything, but I'll get to that later. I jump ahead a little too much because I'm just so excited about this episode. It really was pretty good. We're taken to Kon, Sanglion, Mirandel, and Escarlet, and they're basically talking about the capital, and Escarlet keeps telling Kon there's a possibility that in the capital we could find a way for you to go home. A possibility, you know, slim to none, more or less, a 50-50 shoot and miss type of a chance. I guess Kon is just excited that at least they're going somewhere to find answers. Now we're introduced to the flying squirrel. Again, we do not know what its name is, but it says, it talks like Pikachu from Pokemon, like a chew or it doesn't say Pikachu, you know, it's like if you listen to how it's like coughing or slightly talking, it's saying a chew or something. But again, I don't know what its real name is. And right off the bat, Mirandel falls in love with this this little flying squirrel. And surprisingly, Sanglion, wow, I did not take him as an animal lover. He's like all slightly red-faced, and he's taken in. Now, Escarlet, she's just Escarlet. She doesn't show emotions, you know, so she could go either way. She could care less. Now, Kon wants nothing to do with this flying squirrel. Nothing. We don't know why yet. Anyways, he tries to shoo the animal away, and I guess he ends up throwing it a nut or something without noticing it, and they walk away. Now, again, we don't know what the real reason is or anything. And it's just hilarious. But while they're still in the group, while they're still walking, we hear Mirandel talk about the Alma gear that Kon has and how Kon is able to use the Alma energy. Now, apparently, they believe he is from a place called Alvidia, which is a legendary continent. Was lifted into the sky by Ixion. Again, we don't even know who Ixion is, yet another name. So apparently, they believe Kon might be from this Alvidia place. And that's where we're left off. Now, we're taken to Dukakis' officers, like I said. They're all talking about Dukakis and two possibilities of why Dukakis is no longer in the front lines, because he's been called away. Either for a medical reason, that was what I thought, or because he lost a chariot, which is another word for the tank in this series. But they still feel bad, and it's kind of depressing, but at the same time, you still have to find the humor in this, that they really don't know the real truth, they're just coming up with these assumptions. Now, we find out they're called a special brigade called the Incognito, I believe that's what they're called. I don't know, you hear the word Special Brigade and the word Incognito, so I guess their special brigade is called Incognito. Kind of funny. Now we're taken to the hotel where Cone, Sanglion, Mirandel, and E-Carlet are staying at. It's nighttime now, and they're just trying to, I guess, go over a few different things. And you see Cone's already upstairs asleep. He's trying to call it a night. Everyone else downstairs is trying to wonder why why does he hate that animal so much? But again, that little creature, that flying squirrel, isn't with them right now. We assume it's gone from the picture. Now, we wake up we see someone open a door in Cone's room, but we don't know who it is, but it looks like an animal. Now we find out in the morning that it's the squirrel, it's back. God, it's so hilarious. And again, Mirandel says she's putting her foot down. She's like, no, we're keeping it, and that's final. And apparently Cone is acting like her mother. Again, remember, Mirandel is a guy, not a girl, so this is funny. And he keeps calling her sis now. That's interesting. Apparently he brings up the reason why we don't keep animals is because you go through them so much. Apparently Mirandel had a fish, a cat, a dog, something like that along the ways. So it's kind of funny. And E-Carlet keeps asking Cone, why are you acting like her mother? When she should be saying, why are you acting like his mother? I find it hilarious. But I'm looking at Sanglion, and he is by far the weirdest bodyguard I've ever seen of a knight. This guy is so head over heels for this animal. He's like, oh, can we keep it? I'm like, now, Cone, out of nowhere, he comes up with this great response. The reason why we can't keep it, Mirandel, because you're not able to protect the princess. Isn't the prime goal here to make sure nothing distracts you? He made a good point, but obviously they kind of said, we don't care. We're still going to keep it. But he made a great point. And also Cone keeps saying, well, this animal's like a mysterious animal. We don't know where it came from, who sent it. Well, not who sent it, but he knows something is up. But eventually that fades away. We kind of leave that little idea, and he comes up with all these random BS stories about why this animal can't join their group. And then he goes off, and you see him trying to buy looks like a trap and meat, because he's going to trap this animal. So it's hilarious. And Sanglion catches him. He's like, what are you doing? And he comes up with a random excuse, so he can't do that. Then you see him in another scene with Mirandel, and it looks like he was using a butterfly net to catch this guy, and Mirandel pulls guns on him. I'm like, wow. These people are very protective of this animal. Now, E-Carlet, again, we don't know which way she could be going. She's just watching Cone from a distance, and Cone's making poison, like, I guess, trying to make this little critter some poison, just to knock it out and kill it. And she's like, okay, well, you try it. Of course, we don't get to see if Cone tries it or not. But in the end, all of them approach Cone in this one room, and there's like, Scarlet's like, I've been getting reports that you've been doing odd things. And then Cone says, okay, here's the real reason why I don't like this animal. I'm allergic to it. Yeah, I just don't feel well around it. And the group calls, they're like, what? I'm sorry, well, we don't even know what that is. So apparently Cone keeps forgetting this is a second, a low-level world. They're not up to date on Cone's world. So they don't know what an allergic reaction is. So, and again, they call BS on Cone because obviously he was lying. And then the real story comes out. Now we know why he doesn't like this flying squirrel. Apparently we're taken to a scene where it's raining, Cone is on a bike. This is back when he was a little kid. And apparently he finds two cats off the side of the road, and he takes them in, and he pleads with his mom for these cats to stay at his house, and she caves, and she does. And now we're taken back to Sanglion. He's hearing this story. He's like, okay, well, what happened? Did they die? Did one of your family members, didn't agree with what you were doing? And then Cone was like, no, these animals just don't like me at all. They grew up fat, well-fed, and watched over them, but yeah, they just didn't like me. I'm like, well, that's a horrible story. There was no point to it. And obviously everyone in the group's like, oh, is that off? Then you see Sanglion come up with a random story about a guy called Arthur. Now, as soon as I hear this name, I think King Arthur, and I believe this is their interpretation of King Arthur in their world. Apparently, he is the Fang of Saint Pierre. That's the nickname they give to Arthur, and Sanglian's like, his enemies were like, they feared him. His allies, hurrahed him on. He was a great leader, and at the end, this is what Arthur told his men: "I really like cats." I'm like, what? I'm sorry. That came out of nowhere again. Straight out of left field. Another pointless story, but it was funny. So again, Sanglian is a sucker for cats in general and animals, so weird bodyguard. And again, we're left at the end of this scene with the squirrel. Looks like it's about to be accepted into the group, but Kona's like, pulls out his Alma gear, that sword, and automatically transforms it with the little rock at the end. He's like, oh, it's on like Donkey Kong. Pulls it out. It's like, okay, if I win, you get the heck out of my, you're not going to join our group and you're gone. And if you win, you're just going to stay out of my face. I'm like, and the group was like, wait, that doesn't sound fair. Either way, you win. And before you know it, Sanglian jumps out and he's like ready to stop Kon because he was powered up. He has this Alma energy around him, and it just pushes Sanglian away. It's like, Sanglian couldn't even do jack. This kid, I'm telling you, Kon is all powered up. He went full power on, and he couldn't even nail this flying squirrel. This flying squirrel was all over the place, and Kon was wrecking up this hotel. Now, out of nowhere, we see this flying squirrel do something like a karate move. You hear the background sound of like a karate type of background. He's about to do a jitsu or something, and out of nowhere, this flying squirrel comes out and kicks the crap out of Kon just by the eyes. And obviously this flying squirrel wins. So that's kind of interesting. I was like, oh, figures. So now Kon has to deal with this little flying squirrel joining the group. And at the end we hear him saying, I'm gonna cook you and eat you one of these days. And that was where we're left off with that. Now we are taken back to Dukakis, and he's staring off at the distance on a mountain, and all of a sudden one of his subordinates, his officers, approach him of Varation, and he comes to pick him up. He's like, you need a ride. And that's where we're left off. So that's an interesting way to end this episode. Now, as for Alma Flora, we don't know anything about her yet, other than she's a sorceress, I believe, in this series. As soon as we see her at the end, we keep seeing those hollowed out red eyes. I have no idea if she's good, I have no idea if she's bad, but apparently she's neutral right now in my opinion. But again, that's where we're left in Ixion Saga Dimension Transfer Episode 3. Now for my final thoughts, all I can say is, Alma Flora, who are you? What are your true intentions? And what does Kon have to do with these intentions? Also, what's going to happen when Kon, Icarlet, Sanglian, and Mirandol end up at the capital? Is the princess going to actually marry her suitor, this guy, for a political marriage or not? Or is this other faction going to jump in and do something? And again, we hear something about the special brigade called Incognito. We don't know what their mission is, just that this is the first episode we hear about who they are, just not really much of the background other than they're officers of Dukakis. So it's interesting to see where that goes. And again, we know nothing about Ixion, who we don't know if it's a god or some type of leader or king. Apparently he did away with Elvidia, which is a legendary continent. He lifted it into the sky. That sounds like a god to me, or some magical being that could do that. But again, that's where I'm at with my final thoughts. Okay, maybe I'll add one more. I really want to see Kon use more of his Alma gear techniques, with the sword. We only see him use one. I hope he masters it more. But again, that ends it for my final thoughts. As per my rating, I'm always going to be generous. I like this series. 4 out of 5. Definitely 4 out of 5. Now, definitely comment down below. Thumbs up, thumbs down, subscribe above, comment, and definitely comment, and check me out on Twitter. I'll leave all that information down below, so definitely check all that information down below. Now, I believe that ends it for all my reviews and walkthroughs for today. I'll do a quick check, so definitely stay tuned. And I'll be online, probably on Skype if you guys want to talk. But that ends it for my review and walkthrough of Ixion Saga Dimension Transfer Episode 3. I gotta say it, you can't stop the access, but you can watch the feed. I'll see you later, guys.